I think Spencer Dinwiddie is more of a luxury than a necessity. They have so many options and they are so deep, so loaded. They don't have a weakness on their team. You have your MVP caliber player in Kevin Durant, who is returning to what we've seen him in 2019. As the season goes on, I only think he's going to get better. His Achilles injury, the fact that he returned 18 months versus 12 months is a significant difference. That's number one. Number two, Kyrie Irving is starting to make me believe he is a top 2, maybe the best ISO scorer in the NBA. The way that dude could finish at the rim, finish in traffic, his mid-range, his shooting from 3-point range, every angle you could look at, Kyrie Irving is a walking bucket. Caris LeVert, I personally like a little bit better than Spencer Dinwiddie. Caris LeVert, super athletic, could get to the hole, could stretch out to 3-point range. You also have Joe Harris, who is a sniper from 3-point range. Last year, he shot 42% behind the arc. And then you got rim protection like DeAndre Jordan and Jared Allen. The Nets, every angle you look at, this team is stacked. I don't think it's going to kill them that bad. Does it help them? Of course not. But at the end of the day, the Nets will be just fine. In terms of the Boston Celtics, they're not contenders if they don't have Kemba Walker on that team. Kemba Walker is arguably their best or second player. I think Jason Tatum is emerging as a star in this league. Can he really carry them past a team like the Brooklyn Nets? Absolutely not. If the Celtics think they have any chance of competing with the Brooklyn Nets, they have to have Kemba Walker back in that lineup and back healthy. The Celtics have a lot to worry about if Kemba is not healthy.
I think with the Celtics, it's the lack of rim protection. It's not really having Kemba or not having Kemba. They don't have anybody that's protecting the rim. When you have KD and Kyrie slashing the basket, trying to make points, trying to get points in the paint, they don't have anybody to stop that. Like Jared Allen and DeAndre Jordan do one hell of a job of doing that down in Brooklyn. So the Celtics are potentially set themselves up with a potential trade. They have a lot of trade pieces, but they need to protect themselves in the paint, which they are not doing right now.
Coach, what's going on, bro?
What's good? What's good? How you guys doing today?
I cannot complain, brother. How you doing?
Doing good.
So we just found out Spencer Dinwiddie has a partial tear in his ACL. He will be out the remainder of the season. Kemba Walker will be out till about February. How is this going to affect the Nets and the Celtics moving forward?
With the Nets, I overheard your thoughts. I do like Caris as a better overall player on both sides of the ball, but I think what Spencer gave was Kyrie an opportunity to play off the ball. And when he gets in that scoring mode, put somebody else to play the point guard and really facilitate and still consistently knock down a 3-point shot. As good as LeVert is, he's not a consistent enough 3-point shooter for a full season with all the pressure on him to consistently hit those shots. Will he become one? We're going to see. But I just like with Spencer, if Kyrie has to take days off like we saw last night, if Kyrie is really just going in scorer mode, Spencer is a proven point guard in the NBA who really can take on, starting role, facilitating measures that he has already this season. With Kemba, it's a really interesting dynamic because they got Teague this season, which I think Teague is an underrated point guard for so many years.
Right.
And it's weird. It's almost like that year when Kyrie got injured and the Celtics started playing, almost just as good or better. Teague can really move the ball. He's a veteran. He's a leader, just like Kemba. You want to get Kemba, you want to get him as healthy as possible. But I think Teague can hold it down. I think that team can man their stations until Kemba gets back, and then they can be even better once he gets back from injury.
But why, in terms of, I want to stay on the Brooklyn Nets real quick. Why is it such a big deal if Kyrie needs to take nights off throughout the regular season or whatever? I feel like a team like the Brooklyn Nets, their mentality is just get to the playoffs healthy. That's all they should care about all year long. Because no matter what seed they are, I can't see a team even pushing them 6 games, honestly, let alone losing a series. Once you get to the playoffs, you're going to have a much shorter rotation. It's probably going to be about 7-8 guys. And the Brooklyn Nets are deep enough to really compete with just 7-8 guys. Does Spencer Dinwiddie help and he's a luxury? Of course, but I don't think he's a real necessity given how many options they have to just have a walking bucket. Kevin Durant, walking bucket. Kyrie Irving, walking bucket. Joe Harris, a sniper. Caris LeVert's another scoring option. Like everywhere you look, they have options where they could score. I don't think Spencer Dinwiddie is like, wow, like this could really kill our season.
Well, you exactly just said it. When you get into the playoffs, your bench tightens.
Right.
So meaning a guy like Spencer would have been on the court a little bit more, especially
Sure.
in end game situations. You know, I just think, and also no team has pretty much, we saw what happened with the Clippers last year with, even though it was a bubble, sitting guys out, guys not getting to gel throughout the whole season. I've never seen a team win a championship sitting guys out the first year when they just got together. Even the Golden State Warriors played everybody that season when Kevin Durant first got there. LeBron James last year with AD, they went through the whole season together. It's just that gel factor, and you want to mentally prepare yourself to be the number one seed. You don't want to finish third or fourth and have to go play on the road against a Milwaukee or on the road, against the Boston Celtics. You want to finish first place. And that's why I think everybody's around Spencer, because he was the security blanket, because Kyrie can get injured also. We don't know. Kyrie has never played really a full season as that guy.
Right.
We haven't seen it yet. So, that's why Spencer it was that security. We all like security. That's why we have savings accounts. All of us have savings accounts, because just in case something goes wrong, we can go into that savings account and we can pay our bills. That's what Spencer was. If something went wrong with Kyrie, if something happened, you got somebody who is proven in the league, and you still can be as competitive as you are with anybody on the court.
Right. Justin? Mac?
No, man, you said it best. Spencer Dinwiddie is that guy. I feel like you're not giving them enough credit, because when the Nets had D'Angelo Russell and they were gelling and they made it to the playoffs, Spencer Dinwiddie was one hell of a
100%
part of that team. And when you take him away, yes, they have a bunch of options. They have a bunch of scorers, but he is that guy, like your buddy said earlier, that's going to have the ball in his hands, bringing the ball up, putting his team in the right positions, taking the pressure off of Kyrie and KD when they don't need to do that. It's a 72 game season this year.
Yep,
it's a long time. And there's going to be games when Kyrie and KD need that load lifted off of them. And Spencer Dinwiddie was that guy that was supposed to do it.
Do you think he would even close in their lineups, like once playoff time comes? I mean, you have Kyrie, Joe Harris, KD, Karis LeVert, and Jared Allen. Now that kind of looks like how they would look to close moving down the rest of the way. You think Spencer Dinwiddie is really going to be that big of a problem? And I'm not questioning how good he is, because I think he's one of the better role players in the league. I believe he averaged like 20 and 6 last year. Like, of course, he's a huge part of this team. But I just think the Brooklyn Nets are significantly better than every other team in the East. I don't know a team who could really actually threaten them or really push them whatsoever.
What happened with the Clippers last year? I mean, just look. I mean, the Clippers were significantly better than a lot of teams, and we got into the Denver series, and it came down to who's going to stop Jamal Murray, who's going to stop those guys, Harris. Spencer plays defense as well. That's another thing. Kyrie plays no defense. So when you put Kyrie on the court, you're going to put Spencer on your best, on ball defender. So I mean, I think you're alluding to what we all know. Kyrie and KD are amazing players, but it goes to say about having a guy like Spencer. Every team has had one of those guys who's won a championship.
It's hard to compare them because the Clippers are not as good as the Nets, number one. Number two, the West is better than the East. There's no team in the East that's really like – I think the Nuggets are an underrated team. They're in a smaller market. They don't have the flashier players, which people don't take notice of. And George Paul was disgusting last year. Yes, he played like George Paul in the playoffs. That was one of the most pathetic 3-game stretches I can remember a star caliber player having. I mean, the 10-point game 7, hitting the side of the backboard on a 3-point shot. He was awful in the Clipper series, which the Mavs series. The Mavs series got pushed 6 games because George Paul was atrocious in every single game. That was the only reason why that series even went that far. The Nets have not only, I think, better star power. KD's better than Kawhi. Kyrie's much better than Paul George. And then I like their bench, and they are a deeper roster. Montrezl Harrell also he did not really play what he did in the regular season. He was significantly worse. And Lou Williams was kind of inconsistent in the playoffs as well. I think chemistry-wise, the Clippers really killed themselves. I'm not crazy about Doc Rivers. I think that's a huge upgrade that they don't have him anymore. That's number one. And number two, I don't really like how they load manage, and Kawhi and Paul George got the special treatment. I think that absolutely killed them all year long. Because they every night they had a different starting lineup. And if you have a different starting lineup in basketball, how are you going to build chemistry or anything?
Exactly. With the Nets, man, they need to have that continuity going into the playoffs because, like you said, they are definitely the most talented, but we have seen the most talented teams lose, on the regular occasion. The Nets, yeah, I feel like, and I felt like this last season, 76ers, man, could give a lot of people fits as long as they are rolling and learning how to get Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid to work together more. They brought in Dwight Howard. They have a lot of rim protection. They have a lot of defense. I don't see Danny Green.
Right.
And they also, they have a lot of firepower around them to Joel Embiid to compete in the East if they stay healthy. And then in turn, they have that big man rotation to be able to rock and give players like Giannis or KD that drive to the basket and try to get points in the paint at times. They have those players, but they also have firepower on offense to score. So I think if anybody's going to give Nets fits, it's the Sixers if they can stay healthy. So playing in the regular season and getting that continuity, that chemistry down is going to be very important with the Nets.
So, hey, what do you think, Brandon? I'll say this just to follow back. I think it's great it happened now. It gives them time to get that continuity. Have this happen 10 games, before the playoffs, then that changes your whole philosophy as a coach and as a team. So to know we don't have Spencer now, this is everyone's roles. The French shooter THG, I think, or THC, he's a guy that's going to have to step up and make some shots. Karis LeVert has to play more of a role coming off that bench and leading that second unit. You got 68 games or 69 games now to pretty much iron that out before you get to the playoffs.
I really feel like with that whole Nets team, all it's going to do is once the playoffs come, is players are going to got to play more minutes, which is not the worst thing in the world, given they are significantly more talented than every other team in that conference. And I think healthy wise, the Celtics would probably be the second best team in the East. If you want to argue the Heat, I understand that as well. But if Kemba's not healthy, I mean, they really don't have a shot. But again, the Celtics would have multiple scoring options down the stretch late in games. Kemba's the guy you could do it. Jason Tatum is really proven to be clutch. He did it the other night against Giannis and the Bucks. Jaylen Brown's really emerging as a star player in the league. I mean, that's a deep roster as well. But without Kemba, I just don't think they have enough whatsoever.
Do you think the Celtics can compete with the lack of big man presence?
I don't think they have a big man problem anymore. I mean, they have Tristan Thompson. I think Tice works well against smaller lineups. And Robert Williams is starting to look like he can actually defend and stay on the floor. I think the big thing for the Celtics really is going to be what they do with their traded player exception from Gordon Hayward leaving for the Charlotte Hornets. Yeah, that's going to be the key, I think, to whether this is going to be really a contending team or basically just kind of a repeat of last season.
Yeah, I mean, how much of a loss was Gordon Hayward? He wasn't very consistent ever since he had that catastrophic injury. He's never been that guy that we saw in the Jazz making those a couple All-Star appearances. He never lived up to be that guy. And if you are a Celtics fan, how do you want to pay Gordon Hayward like a max deal when he's not playing like one? Championship.
You gotta understand that Gordon Hayward, he had that injury, but when you have multiple 20-point scorers on a team, you're not always going to have that chance to shine. I'm pretty sure if you look at Gordon Hayward's numbers, his shooting percentages were all career highs last year.
Right.
He just didn't have the shot attempts because there's so many players.
But then you have to overpay him though. Then you have to overpay him with other guys, and that's not. I don't think he was worth the contract that he wanted if he was going to stay with the Celtics.
It was bad.
I feel like in the NBA, you gotta overpay players to keep them. There's so many guys getting max contracts that don't deserve it.
And those teams aren't championship caliber teams. Like the Bucks will never win.
Yes, they are. The Lakers was overpaying people last year. That wouldn't get like where else is what's the I always forget the ankle bracelet guy. I always forget his name. I don't know why. KCP. Come on, man. KCP is not getting paid like that.
He just got an extension this year where he's making a few bucks.
Yeah, that's what I mean. They overpaid to keep some of that together. He made some shots and Danny Green was getting overpaid to me last year for what he was worth. I mean, I know he came from a championship, but they overpaid him because they knew okay, he's a vet. We're gonna need him at the end. He can go anywhere else and get more money because people are going to take him, but we're going to overpay him slightly because I know he may want to win a championship. Every team that wants to win overpays people.
Not really, because the Bucks overpaid Khris Middleton, which is an awful deal, and that's not that.
We just said it. That you just agreed with me.
Yeah, they're not winning. They're not winning anything with him.
But they're contending. Every team that wants to try and win is going to overpay players to try and win.